Welcome to Impumelelo Mentorship Podcast. My name is Nompumelelo Maduna. I've made the commitment to rise as I rise with others and ensure that I make mentorship accessible to all. Since the honor of being selected as Miss South Africa runner-up on the 10th of August in 2024, I've been dedicated to sparking meaningful conversations that inspire our youth to dream beyond their realm of reality. And so, I'm excited to have a wonderful young woman who is absolutely intelligent, who is Zulaikha Patel. Zulaikha has inspired the nation with her courage and commitment to justice, having authored 2 books, one being My Coily Crowny Hair, and most recently, Brave Like Me. From addressing the United Nations to sharing her voice on global platforms like TEDx, Forbes Africa, and CNN, Zulaikha has solidified her presence as a formidable and influential young leader on world stages. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome, Zulaikha. Thank you so much
for having me.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations on your latest book.
Thank you very much.
How are you feeling?
I am quite excited. This is a personal story. I'm letting children as well as adult readers as well into what really made me take the one bold step everyone knows me for. Because everyone knows the action I took, but no one knows what contributed to being able to do that and being able to stand brave to do that. No one knows. So this story is an exploration of the little girl that lives inside me, that guides me in everything that is deemed as brave that I do, and is the little girl that was the girl at the center of a movement that became a global movement. And the story explores getting to know her and how she became brave and who were the people that contributed to her being brave. One of the most important, my dad.
I love that. One thing I've known about you ever since you stepped out into the world is that you have been unapologetically yourself. And you've carried such beauty in being resilient, in showing that whatever it is that you've been committed to with your beliefs, that you don't shy away from the Zulaikha that stood up for her rights and her beliefs. And I find that most of our youth, Zulaikha, confides themselves in the societal standards, how everyone should perceive us to be. How do you feel we should not conform and rather choose to be ourselves and be our best selves?
There's actually an important part in my book that actually touches on that, and the reason why I've always been quite adamant in being myself and being myself to a point where I'm proud of the unique things about myself that make me unique and set me apart from everyone else. And those are the things that are in the forefront whenever I find myself in a space where I have to express myself on a platform or public speak or anything of that nature. My uniqueness that sets me apart from everyone else takes the center stage and comes to the forefront. And I learned that as a child when in my book, I actually speak about how because I grew up in a interfaith and an interracial family, a family where everyone doesn't look alike. And then on top of that, and second layer is, as much as no one really looks like each other, I also don't look like anyone else. And I grew up in a Ndebele Indian Muslim Christian family. And that as a child made me, it took away so much confidence because people would stare. I was born only 8 years into democracy. And I remember where my mom is from, KwaMhlanga in KwaNdebele, the particular village that she's from, my mom's wedding was one of the first interracial weddings and marriages that people in that community had witnessed. So you can only imagine how people felt when they would encounter me. And it took away so much confidence from me to have to sort of as a child understand that I'm so different to the people around me. And it stands out because whenever I'm with any one of them, people stare. And in my book, I touch on it where I write about, and I'm going to just read, and part of where I touch on this, I go back to one of the times in my childhood where in the book I write, Zulaikha didn't quite look like her dad, nor quite like her mom. Whenever she was with her dad, people would stare. They would touch her hair and say that she didn't look like him. This made her feel as if she didn't really belong in her family. What would it feel like to fit in, she wondered. Her parents thought Zulaikha was perfect. With her cloud of curls forming a beautiful afro, her golden brown skin and quick mind. Everyone has unique qualities that make them who they are. Papa often told her, you just need to embrace yours, Zulaikha.
Oh, absolutely sweet. And, Zulaikha, I am truly inspired that you have now written a second book and that we can relate to your story, because our young voices don't often know how to come out into their true selves, onto that stage of confidence. And that's suppressed very easily by our surroundings, by, like I said, the conformity that we see ourselves having to live by, the standards of society. And so I want to go back and just talk about how you've made this book accessible to 11 official different languages of South Africa, which is absolutely imperative. Because in the world that we're living in now, we not only need to give that opportunity to the rest of us, but we need to give that opportunity to the realization of the type of country that we are. And so it brings me to the question to ask you, why did you call this book Brave Like Me?
Because that's essentially my story. And beyond it being my story, it's the essence of why I do what I do. It's my purpose. The title is the purpose of why my work exists. And I titled it Brave Like Me because there was no other fitting title to call this story, because this story is aimed at using my story in what made me be brave enough to become a voice and later become an activist, where I'm able to send waves of change across the world and form part of discussions about social issues globally. And with the story, I hope to inspire a new generation of activists, a new generation of advocates of change, change makers, people that want to contribute meaningfully to the world, because that's really the essence of why I do what I do. I do what I do because I want to advocate, educate, and empower. And I feel like I would fulfill my life's purpose if from my activism, other activists are born. And because my story in this book is a story of bravery, there was no other title that was going to be more fitting than Brave Like Me. Because from this story, what I want you to be is brave like me, so that you can speak up in your community and become an agent of change and a change maker in your community.
Absolutely. And, I often come across the stat that, it's a stark reality that our literacy in this country, formative years of our children, don't really know how to read for meaning. And this is why this is so important, because understanding and relating to your story allows us to see that adversity is not necessarily the most crippling act, because it allows us to step into that bravery to become essentially who we really are. And earlier on, you touched on your upbringing, something that is very much rooted in your identity. But I find that our young people are not open about talking about who they are, where they come from. Do you mind just elaborating on, your upbringing, your story, on what was the most crippling thing in stating proudly who you are?
Ooh, what a long question.
I know.
My upbringing. My upbringing was I think it's the reason why I say I have a short life in years but a long life in experience.
I love that.
I'm in the body of it, young 23-year-old woman. But the soul,
Yeah.
the soul.
Is wise. The soul is wise and the soul is mature and the soul is brave.
Yeah, it feels like the soul has been around,
Mm.
just roaming for a while.
Mhm.
But it was very interesting because my upbringing is one of the main things that contributed to who I am today. And there's many parts of it where some are crippling,
Mm.
some are just a bit depressing, some are really empowering.
Mm.
So it's an interesting up and down story.
Yeah.
And essentially I'm a girl that was born from a man who came as an immigrant to South Africa from India, a small village in India called Karmad. He arrived in South Africa. When he arrived in South Africa, happened to get involved in the anti-apartheid struggle for liberation, and then meets a Ndebele woman from KwaMhlanga, KwaNdebele, and together they're united in a joint vision to want to build a better life for themselves because of their upbringing. They share the synergy of having had upbringings that were somewhat rooted in poverty and struggle. And so then then they get married and they have me. And in both their families, this is such a crazy thing that happened because both their families were never prepared for the idea of two people of different racial groups, even though race is it's a social construct.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Two people from different racial groups, different religious backgrounds, marrying each other. Both their families were not prepared for such a reality and didn't know how to react to it. And then let alone they have a child who is now me, and now none of the people in both their families have encountered people that are products of interracial marriages. And now I have to navigate that and navigate my identity amidst such chaos.
Yeah.
And also sort of be the first in my family to normalize this and to ensure that as I normalize it, the people in my family also go out into the world as better people as well through being around me and being able to interact with me normally, you know? So yeah, from the time I was a child, I think I was already shaping people's minds because I was already working with trying to get people um to normalize my identity and the uniqueness of my identity and trying to bring them to accept it and have tolerance as well for religious differences. And in doing this, this contributes to how they go out into the world and show up with people that aren't like them. And then now having done this in my childhood, then going into the real world, which is the reality of South Africa, where racism was not buried in 1994 and racism is still systemic and institutionalized.
100%.
And then I go into the schooling environment where now I come from a background where I've done so much work on educating people about my identity, and my identity has caused such an uproar in my background. And then I go out into school where I encounter, essentially outside of my personal life, I encounter white educators and white people for the first time that happen to be in positions where they're in charge. And to them, my identity has now got nothing to do with being from an interracial family. I'm just Black now. And then I have to now navigate that and also navigate the fact that now in this environment, now that I'm just Black, I now have to be aware of what that comes with. My identity is going to be policed. My autonomy is going to be policed. My autonomy and identity, things like my hair, are going to be used against me in order to enforce oppressive policies.
Mm.
And I have to now find a voice in that, because now I'm going to be in an environment where it's threatening for me to have a voice. It's threatening for me to behave like what they call a clever black or an uppity black, as they would say. I have to now find a voice there. And that was my childhood, essentially, navigating different worlds as I'm in different environments, from home, from school, from the actual world, where as much as my father and I look alike physically, I look exactly like my dad. But when people see us, the first thing they see is our racial difference, regardless of the fact that we look exactly alike. So I have to navigate society, home, and school. And that all brought me into having an understanding that South Africa still requires so much change, and it's up to my generation to take on this mission. This is our mission that has been assigned to us, to now continue to take on the baton, to continue to foster bringing about change in South Africa, because it's not enough that the laws in South Africa have changed. Systems need to change, institutions need to change, policies, culture, people, because people influence all of those things.
100%.
So yeah, that's a bit about my childhood. And in all of that, I still need to be a person who has hobbies and a person that finds themselves. I think maybe that's why I never played sports as a child, because my whole life already was a sport.
It was, managing complexity.
By the time I had to do a sport, the energy was drained.
Look, I'm hoping that you're still trying to figure out how you can do that.
No, I'm a hiker. It's okay.
Yeah,
No, the
there's a
sporting
place to start.
the sporting bus missed me. Yeah.
You could still catch it. There's paddle. There's all you can take a run with me on one of the Saturdays. We'll do a short 5-kilometer run.
No, I'm not sporty at all.
Maybe we'll revisit the conversation. But, Zulaikha, I love that you took us on your complex journey of life. And something that I want you to just untap is that navigating the complexity of reality as well as uncertainty. And you've been in spaces and in rooms where potentially you faced a lot of imposter syndrome. You say you are a different soul in your body, right? But you are 22. And what that essentially means, you'll encounter rooms where you're made to feel like you don't belong, or you're made to feel like, someone else should be in that seat. And it's not the easiest thing to navigate. Like you've said, there's lots of complexities it's been a whirlwind. How do we now step into that authority to say, I'm Zulaikha and I deserve to be here. And whatever I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it is going to be important, because I'm part of the transformative change that this country and this world needs.
Well, I mean, there's no formula per se, because it's a consistent journey that's not linear. I may have had imposter syndrome when I was a teenager, and then I learned how to get over whatever caused that imposter syndrome. And then now there's different realities that I'm confronting that may cause other imposter syndrome. But really, it's never really easy, because I find myself consistently in rooms where I'm either the youngest or internationally, it's always I'm the youngest, or internationally, sometimes find yourself in rooms where you're the only African or the only Black person, or the only person that's young Black woman and is under the age of 30. And then you have to confront ageism and people making you feel like you don't belong. Or sometimes people say, no, it was because we, of course, needed a young person in the room. Or people will water down your hard work to just requiring a quota. When you need to be of the belief that you form part of a very important generation that has a very important mission to fulfill. And Frantz Fanon says that every generation, and I'm paraphrasing, every generation has a mission of its own to fulfill. And I form part of a generation that has a very integral mission to fulfill in the world. The world currently needs young people. Young people are desperately needed by the world to change the world beyond laws, beyond laws, beyond policies, beyond constitutions, change the world in terms of socialization, people's minds, education, the status of education. But at the core of it is people and their minds, because all of these things link back to people and their minds and are influenced by people and their minds. So it's important that as young people, we consistently remind ourselves that we are meant to be in every room that we find ourselves in. And if we feel intimidated in that room, or we try water ourselves down in that room, we become our own enemies and enemies of our own mission that's been bestowed upon us. And we have to consistently remind ourselves that we are here to fulfill a mission that the world desperately needs.
Absolutely.
I need to take my own medicine.
I think I also need to take your medicine. And I love that you say consistency. And often we talk about legacy and we refer to it as a legacy we'd like to leave. I want to talk about a legacy you want to constantly lead. And the Zulaikha story, that is the one that, as you've emphasized, taking on the future generations, taking on the current generations along with you on this journey. It's beyond constitution, it's beyond policy, it's beyond the framework of law. It is about how do we actively and proactively shift the needle of the circular economy that we belong in and start to see actionable change as the voice that you are. We need to live and lead beyond that. So how would your legacy be led?
Legacy is something that's created every day. It's not something you only leave behind later. It's every day you're living through your legacy. In terms of how I would like for my legacy to lead, I'd like for my legacy to lead with social aware compassion and empathy. We're losing a lot of empathy and compassion in society, firstly. We're losing the ability to connect with each other. And one thing I pride myself in is whenever I speak to people, I want to connect with beyond the mind. I want to connect with the heart, because the heart influences the mind. So I want to lead with compassion and empathy and social awareness at the middle of those two things. But most importantly, I want to be the girl that made other people reach a new state of social consciousness and made other people believe that it doesn't take some huge famous person to bring about change in the world. It's the ordinary person that has an idea, believes in it, and chooses to be brave to share their idea with the world. And the girl that made kids believe in themselves. Because that's why I write books for kids. I love kids. They're my little besties. So that's who I want to lead my legacy, and those are the things that I want to be at the forefront of my legacy.
And I believe kids are the first connectors to books, to becoming a different person before they become who they can be. So I love that you said that it's about embarking on the journey from young phases of life and growing into this, crazy life that we live in. But your journey has really been an inspirational one. And I honestly can't wait to continue to watch it and to see you blossom to the flower that you are. And so, Zulaikha, before we wrap up, notes to end off our conversation. I can imagine you would say a lot of things to your younger self. But what would be the most pivotal thing that you would say right now?
I think I would thank my younger self for being brave. Yeah, because I don't think myself now would exist without the bravery of my younger self.
I love that. And lastly, and I want to keep you here for as long as I can, I want to talk about intention. It's you speak about this mind that we have, but it is mainly supported by the heartbeat of our body. And when it comes to intention and setting the tone of where you would like to be, would you say there has been moments where you digressed because of influence from your main purpose and your direction of where you are today?
I mean, I'm human at the end of the day,
Mm.
and normal human like everyone else.
Mm.
Um, Especially when you discover your purpose very young,
Mm.
very, very, very young, you can easily sort of digress here and there, but then it's up to how you listen to what's at the core of your purpose to guide you back to that purpose.
Mm.
I mean, here and there, I've made mistakes like every other young person, maybe befriended the wrong person here and there, or been in the wrong crowd, and then maybe I had not been so connected to my purpose. But at the end of the day, it's how you listen to what guides your inner voice and what grounds you in that purpose.
Mm.
That's what's going to bring you back.
Mm. I love it. Thank you, Zulaikha.
Thank you.